Good.
I'd like to welcome our new Toastmasters. It's nice to see some faces in our group today. And the reason I decided to do the icebreaker was because I went to the district training last week and they handed us a manual and encouraged us to. And I thought, well, the advanced group, we never get an icebreaker. We know each other, but we really don't know that much about each other. And I thought it would be a good opportunity to maybe change a few things, or at least get something started to where we could get to know each other a little better. My name is James Koch, and I grew up, I was born and raised in DuBois, Pennsylvania. It's the more central part of the state. When I was 15, my father got a transfer to Johnstown, Pennsylvania. I've come to find that in our group, there is another Johnstown I can follow. And there might be another one, but I just don't know. I finished my high school in Johnstown. I ended up going to Duquesne University in Pittsburgh. When I finished college, I decided to go to trade school. And I ended up in Cleveland, Ohio. I lived there and worked there and went to school there for about a year and a half. And I decided to go back to Pittsburgh. I went back to Pittsburgh and I was there about 3 years. And I had an aunt and uncle that lived in Wyoming. And they said, it was about 1980, they said, well, why don't you come out and check it out? And about that time, Time magazine had a cover story about the Rocky Mountains. And it had a picture of a mountain of gold, and in the foreground it had like all these workers and oil drilling rigs going out there, and there was a lot going on out there. And I decided to pack up and go to Wyoming. That was 1981. In 1984, that mountain of gold turned to a mountain of rubble. Everything took nosedive. When you see people leaving town with a sofa strap to the roof of their car, it's a hint. So I packed up, and I didn't know if I was going to come back east or if I was going to stay out in the west. And I liked the west. There was something about the west that I liked. So I moved to Denver, Colorado. And in Denver, I started a carpet and upholstery cleaning business, and I was there for 10 years. We also sold floor coverings and so on. Got to know the business and liked the flavor of the area. 1995 came, and I decided to move to Pueblo, Colorado. I thought I fell in love, but it's funny how you fall out of love faster than you fall in love. So the relationship didn't last, but I ended up staying in Pueblo, Colorado. And then probably the most significant thing in my life happened in 2003. I was working in Denver. I did a lot of traveling, but I lived in Pueblo. And I left the job site this morning. I woke up and I went to work, and I just didn't feel well. I was working in these motels, what we call the motel service, because the motels, they were building a lot of new motels, and we were doing a lot of work. And then one of the laws is that a motel has to change out all their furniture, their carpet, and their draperies every, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years, something like that. And I remember telling the fellow I was working with, I said, I really don't feel too good. And I went out to my car, and somehow or another, I drove back to Pueblo. And the last thing I remember was I was standing on this friend of mine's porch, and I remember the spotlight on his porch, and that's the last thing I remember. I kind of blacked out. It was the end of January. And the next moment of clarity I had was I was in the hospital, and I was talking to a doctor. And he told me that I was going to have surgery the next day. And it was like, wow. And I didn't have a clue. I didn't know what happened to February. And the ensuing time that passed, I found that I had died several times. In fact, I was getting my last rites on more than one occasion. My brother said he flew out from North Carolina. He said, I saw what he looked like. He said, I made arrangements to have your body taken and transported back to Pennsylvania when you passed away. And it changed my life forever. I had a friend, Barbara, and I was getting tired because they put me in a nursing home for a couple of months. And and my roommate was 90 years old. And I was getting kind of stir crazy, so I asked this friend of mine, Barbara, I knew she was a recovering alcoholic, and I said, well, I really need to get out of here. And I talked to the lady with the administration area of the area I was in, and she said, well, you can go as long as you have someone to pick you up and bring you back. And so I went, and I was sitting in this Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, and I was listening, and I heard a word that I didn't understand. I didn't know what it meant. I had no idea what it meant, and that word was resentment. And I just listened, and people started talking about it. I had not a clue what they were talking about, so I went back to the nursing home, and I rustled up a dictionary and found the word resentment. And at that point, I realized that something happened to my cognitive processes. I didn't understand things. I carried the dictionary around with me for about a year after that. And everywhere I went, if I didn't have the dictionary with me, it wasn't far from me. And I was still living in Pueblo, and I thought, well, I guess I have to get my life back on track. And I started doing things as a healing process. And when I came back to Pennsylvania, and I moved back here, I was driving cross country when Katrina hit. That's a heck of a way to remember something that when I got back to Pennsylvania, they kept raising the gas prices. In fact, in a couple of places, they were actually changing the price of the gas as I was filling up. It was really strange, but that marks my return to Pennsylvania. And I was still struggling with my cognitive processes. I was really pretty far down on the scale. When you don't know different words, it really is odd. But as far as the resentment things, and I can explain it this way, that when I realized that I was given life again, and I had to feel it was a divine thing. That's the only reason I'm here. I remember as a young man, much younger man, I should say, seeing the soldiers, the POWs, come back from Vietnam, and they would come down the plane, and they would get down on their hands and knees, either right there or walk a little bit across the torn, and their hands would kiss the ground. And I remember the image, but I didn't understand it. After what happened to me, I understood what I was seeing, that I was seeing the ultimate feeling and emotion of gratitude. When I woke up and they told me that about what happened, it was like, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I understood a lot of things that changed my life completely. I mean completely. And I'm getting close to my end of my time, but I have studied a lot of things. I took up the habit of reading, and understanding. And I'd like to send you out with a message that I've learned from my experience. And it comes from Les Brown, the motivator. Now, I was listening to one of his tapes, and he said he found this in a book called Life is Uncertain, Eat Dessert First. And it's a song that was very popular in the 40s and the 50s. And it goes like this. You work and work for years and years. You're always on the go. You never take a minute off. Too busy making dough. You say someday you'll have it fun when you're a millionaire. Imagine the fun you'll have in your own rocking chair. Enjoy yourself, so you didn't think. Enjoy yourself while you're still in the pink. Here's the lie. Here's the wink. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy yourself. It's later than